Hello and welcome to the Fen Den. I'm your host, Sean Allen Fenn, and my goal is to win your hearts and to change your minds.
You might hear some noises and voices in the background. I am, for the first time, going to do a brought to you by moment. This episode of the Fen Den is brought to you by Soho Places, located at 435 Broome Street in New York City. If you're a freelancer, it may be overkill to go to a WeWork and you're not going to meet prospects at home. You need an affordable workspace in a great location. That's where Soho Places comes in, to provide freelancers with a quiet workspace. You can reserve a workplace via their Facebook page through Messenger. Give it a try. You might find that it's the perfect thing for you if you're a freelancer. And that's kind of what brought me here. I am Sean Allen Fenn, and as you heard in the intro, my goal is to win your hearts and change your minds. Well, I realize I can't change everyone's mind. Chances are I can win your heart. At least I'm going to die trying. And if I can change your mind about something, I am willing to have my mind changed. That is one of the qualities that makes a successful person. As you know, my quest and why you're here with me on this journey is to become the ideal version of myself. One of the traits, one of the qualities that makes a successful person is not being too stubborn. Now, my birthday is coming up this month, and which means I'm a Taurus. And notoriously, Tauruses tend to have a reputation of being stubborn, right? And can I be stubborn? Yeah, I sure can. However, I'm trying not to be. In fact, if it's possible, when someone proves me wrong, when someone changes my mind, it takes a certain awareness, a self-awareness, to be able to have the humility to turn on a dime. In other words, there is a tendency for people to, once they have a notion, once they have an idea in their minds, no matter what, this always happens if you get in arguments over religion or politics, which is a great idea. I highly recommend you go right now and get in an argument with someone about religion or politics. And you'll notice what happens is, no matter what, that person tends to feel stronger about their beliefs, about their particular viewpoint. No matter what you say, they'll feel stronger about it, to the point where it's completely futile. However, if you're able to turn on a dime and recognize that there is a 50% chance that I'm wrong, and if I'm okay with that, you'll get a better result, whatever you're trying to accomplish. I'm here recording the podcast because something has been happening with me, and maybe it's happening with you, where I decided over the course of the few months, I don't know how long you've been following the Fen Den. If this is your first time listening, welcome. I talk about a lot of things: society, art, whatever I think is important. Society, human behavior. This is fascinating because I love people. That will be the thing that distinguishes me at the end of the day. I absolutely love people. In fact, last night I was at a networking event in Times Square, and I did the most absurd thing, and I actually went and got in the crowd of the tourists because I wanted to feel what it was like. Again, that feeling of being a tourist. So it was a warm night. It was beautiful. I mean, New Yorkers tend to forget how cool this city is sometimes, don't we? So I love people. And that is one of the reasons why I'm doing this podcast and gave you that little plug. That was a free advertisement, by the way, because something has been happening with me over the course of these few months, where I am determined to not be a victim of circumstance, right? I think what happens to many people is they become a victim of their circumstances and resign to the fact that they will never do what they want to do, and their true light may never shine because they're too worried about the present moment, making a quick buck just to survive. Granted, we all need to survive. We all need to make a quick buck, clearly. However, it's too easy to lose sight of who you are and your main goal and your main purpose. And my purpose is to help people to realize their dreams. And while that may sound vague, as I start to identify what I truly enjoy, like the way that I truly help people, this is why I care so much about art. It's because I believe that art is comparable or in the same frequency, so to speak, as religion. And it is this thing that we could live without it, but how good would that life be without it? Who wants that life? You'll be so bored without these higher-minded, creative things. I mean, that's what makes us human, right? Is the ability to create. I really believe that that's what distinguishes us from the rest of the animal kingdom. While I have seen videos of cats painting and elephants painting, those things, I don't think that would happen without human intervention. I don't need to tell you how important art is, you know, but I think that's one of the things that makes life worth living. The reason it's so important to me to help people to realize their dreams is because I can't stand for another dream to be crushed. I really can't. When you're someone who, like me, has this need to create their own life. In other words, freedom is the most important thing for me. Okay, and that's the reason why, that's one of the motivators to make money. Is not the money itself, but it's the freedom. Secondly, to not be a victim of circumstance is, I think, very powerful. It's a thing that takes risk. However, it is even more risky to not follow your dreams. Because could you imagine if someone like Jimi Hendrix never went out and tried to get a gig, and never went out and got on stage and played guitar? Could you imagine what we would be missing? And we wouldn't even know we were missing it if he never got on stage, if he didn't have the courage to play guitar like he did. It would be a disservice. It would be unethical if someone like that did not do what they were put here to do. Someone like Jimi Hendrix, for example. Not to talk about death, because that's a downer. But seriously, we only have so much time on this planet, and at our deathbed, do you want to look back and say, I wish I had lived and fulfilled my dreams. I wish I had lived and done what I wanted to do. Who wants to be on their deathbed and regret not living their life and not doing the thing that fulfilled them and following their dreams? Now, especially if you can make a living out of whatever your dream is, then you're actually doing a favor for the rest of us. And if I don't help someone to help humanity, then that's on me. And I don't want to have that regret to where I see where I can help people and I don't get a chance to help them. I would hate that. I say all that to say that recently someone asked me, what is your ideal job? What's your dream job? And immediately my response was not, I want to work at Disneyland, or I want to work at like Ogilvy, or I want to work at Dairy Queen, or I want to manage a McDonald's. I did none of those things. My dream job is to create my own job, my agency, and that's my dream job. Being an entrepreneur, if you're listening to this, you can relate. We don't just have like one source of income. Ideally, like you need 7 to really make any headway. 7 streams of income at least. Okay, so that's where my first love comes in, and that's with art. Okay, so I have some really exciting things that are in the works with my company, Artlingo, Artlyngo. And in this episode, I'm going to talk about people like Jeff Bezos. I don't need to tell you who Jeff Bezos is. If you don't know who he is, I don't think you would even be listening to the Fen Den podcast with your host, Sean Allen Fenn, because you're probably living under a rock. Okay, and so I'm glad I can make time to do this podcast for you. The cool thing about it is I want to express love of freedom, and not only why I do this podcast is to win your hearts and change your minds, but how I do it, as you can hear, it's going to get more professional as time goes on. Trust me. These are the things that I want to draw your attention to, because I think they're important, and I really believe that it is the creators of this world who are going to make the biggest difference and solve the biggest problems. So that's what I love to talk about. And I love talking about entrepreneurs, society, innovations, art and technology, and social issues. One of them that is important to me is the topic of affordable housing, because I can remember, and if you have ever had to move, which you probably have, it is the most stressful thing, and there is probably nothing more stressful than that. A city like New York City, it is not getting any cheaper, right? It's not getting any less expensive to live here. And that's the way it is throughout the country, especially in cities like New York, San Francisco, and of course Seattle. I'm bringing up Seattle because they're having a housing crisis in Seattle, as Amazon is the biggest company there. They are looking for tax money. They're looking to provide affordable housing by taxing companies like Amazon. Amazon is the largest employer in Seattle with a staff of 45,000 people. They decided to halt a huge expansion. Amazon is expanding. They're looking for a second location for their headquarters, and they are halting the expansion of a huge expansion in Seattle of their facilities. They're halting it due to affordable housing tax that is being initiated by Seattle. It's intended to raise $75 million to build affordable housing in Seattle. And Seattle City Councilman Mike O'Brien says he needs to run a city that has room for prosperous business, but doesn't do it at the expense of people getting pushed into poverty. Okay, now here is my question. Is Jeff Bezos responsible for providing affordable housing? When you consider that he already provides more jobs than anyone else in Seattle, what more do you want him to do? Amazon makes billions of dollars. Jeff Bezos is personally worth $130 billion and makes $107 million a day. But is he responsible for providing affordable housing when he already provides more jobs than anyone else? Of course, as the technology companies come into Seattle and there are more jobs, not only Amazon but there are other companies, the city ends up not having enough housing for the people moving in, while the people who live there are getting squeezed out. Is it Amazon's responsibility to care for the people who cannot afford to live there anymore? It's not like this is something new that's never happened. It happens in every city. I remember in San Francisco, it used to be that San Francisco was not as expensive as New York, and now San Francisco, at least last time I checked, is more expensive than New York because of the tech boom. And in the same way, there is not enough housing for people who are not working those jobs in the tech industry and making that money. When I first moved to New York in 2005, I moved to Williamsburg right when it was just starting to get trendy. Now it is extremely trendy and it's become a really affluent area. A lot of people who lived there had to move, at least artists moved from Williamsburg to Bushwick for the same reason, because the rents went up, these new big high-rises and these luxury places were going up, and the rents were being raised. Now you end up with a lot of artists and people who are in the same kind of situation to where they don't have enough income to keep living there. We see this over and over again. You could call it gentrification or whatever, but the fact is that affordable housing is an ongoing problem that needs to be solved. Now my question is, Can it be fixed with taxes? Yesterday on the 6 train, I met a lady named Audrey. I was kind of sitting on the edge of my seat, like in my own, just whatever, focused on whatever I was doing or wherever I was going. And on the edge of my seat, clearly I must have looked pensive. And this lady next to me, she's the sweetest lady. She's like, sit back, like sit back. And just talking to her was really nice. You know, this is one of the things I love about New York City is the people, being so close to people. Audrey was a jewel. She was a wonderful lady. We got to talking, and she lives in Williamsburg in one of the tall buildings there with subsidized housing. I mean, she was wonderful. She talked about her family, and she showed me pics of her view from her apartment. Gorgeous view. She lives in one of the high-rises in Williamsburg, and she's lived there for years. And she was telling me that her daughter was, I think, on the city council. Her daughter knew that this was going to be an up-and-coming area, so they pay low rent in this place. And her daughter told her stay and don't leave from that place. And sure enough, the area became this booming area. They live in this great community. In this conversation I had with Audrey on the train yesterday, I have one major takeaway that she emphasized, and that's get involved in your community. She was saying that local politicians need the votes of her community. Okay, they have politicians that come to them with their proposals, and they need their votes. Get involved in your community. Know who your neighbors are, because when people come together, that's the only way any of this will work. Subsidized housing helps provide lower income families with a place to live, but it doesn't solve the problem. The problem runs much deeper than throwing tax dollars at it. It runs so deep that throwing tax dollars at it is not enough to solve the problem. Fundamentally, the problem is income. Jeff Bezos and Amazon already provides the most jobs in Seattle. Okay? Now, Jeff Bezos knows what we're buying. Conan O'Brien made a joke about this. He sees what we buy. He knows the problem won't be solved by throwing tax dollars at it. Think about it. Jeff Bezos is a man who is a self-made billionaire. Okay, it is possible to be a self-made billionaire, and Bezos proved it. He knows what we're buying. He can see how much people spend on stupid crap. So, okay, the problem is not the problem won't be solved by throwing tax dollars at subsidized housing, because that will only be a band-aid. The root of the problem is people don't know how to increase their income because we're not taught how to do it. Not in public schools. We're sent to these public schools, and we're taught by teachers who are barely getting by, who teach us things like that are nice to know, but they're not need to know. They can't compete with Google. Information is a free commodity that if the schools are just teaching us information that you could Google to find the answer to in a split second, the problem runs so much deeper, right? I mean, if they're teaching us Christopher Columbus sailed in 1642, and it's on a test, they could have spent that class time teaching kids how to make money, so that instead of teaching them to try and get good grades so that they could get into a good college, so that they could get a decent job with a 401k and think that's enough when the rents are going up and their income is staying flat. So what if they do get this job? Is it going to be enough? Of course not. For some people it is. Okay, good. I love to see people succeed, and there are some people who the system did work for them and they're doing well. And Bezos is actually one of them. He graduated from Princeton University in 1986 with a degree in computer science and electrical engineering. Okay, clearly he's an exception, not the rule. Okay, so he's a genius. And he went to Princeton. Now, maybe you're listening to the Fenden podcast with your host, Sean Allen Fenn. And maybe you did go to Yale or Princeton. But chances are you probably didn't. That's why you're listening. Okay, because I'm not the brightest bulb on the tree or the sharpest tool in the shed. But there's one thing that I do know. And that is that it is possible to be who you are intended to be. Okay, not all of us can be Jeff Bezos, I get that. Just why am I so fixated on this guy? I really am. I want to know everything. I want to get inside the dude's head. I would love to meet him. Anyway, I mean, that would really be cool, wouldn't it? Because this guy started this, imagine, conversation. I'm going to sell books on this thing called the internet. Imagine the conversation with people who didn't know what the internet was, and why the hell would you sell books on it? But he did. And that's where he started from. And now he's a billionaire. What I was saying though is, he knows what we're buying. Okay? We buy stupid crap. But oh, Bezos, don't judge us. Just take our money. So he just takes our money. And the things that we spend money on that we're not making any money from are liabilities. Okay, so number one, here's what I'm realizing is that I might not be a genius, but, and maybe you feel this way too. You know something that someone else doesn't. You know, we've come this far. There's someone behind you. There's always someone on our journey. There's always someone behind you on the path. And there's always someone in front of you on the path. So there's someone who maybe hasn't heard this yet, but basic rule is something that does not make you money is not an asset. So that's why your house, if you bought a house and you're not renting it out to someone else, it is a liability, it's not an asset. Okay? A car is not an asset, it's a liability. And as long as you're okay with that, cool, because I know it's kind of a humble thing. No, seriously, I want a Mustang. I don't know why I love Mustangs so much. I don't even know if they're that good of a car, but I just love them ever since I was a kid. So, you know, I don't need a Lambo. I don't need a Ferrari. I want a Mustang. And I know that it is a liability. Okay, I know that I'll lose money on the thing as soon as I drive it off the lot, but I don't care. Alright, but here's another reason why I love art so much. And I just had this conversation yesterday with someone from Holland, because in Holland, they don't tax you on art. So what people do is, did you know that art is a store of value? It is a tool, just like money. That's why art and money go hand in hand. Here's what you do. You want to move some money overseas and not get noticed? Here's what you do. Okay, don't tell anybody I told you. Invest, or you buy art in Holland, like 10, 15,000, 20,000, just as much as you want. And you bring the thing overseas and then you resell it. You've just gotten your money overseas. You don't have to pay taxes on it. Okay, don't quote me on that. Do not, because I'm sure there's information I'm missing. But the point is, what is my point? The difference between a liability and an asset. Okay, that's what sort of got me down this rabbit hole. And out of all the rabbit holes that I could have gone down, out of all the holes, this was truly the best one. And it all started that moment when I was working at this job that I worked at for a long time. And I looked at the people around me who were also working at this job. People who were older than me, in their 60s, still standing on that floor in Bloomingdale's, freaking just like hoping that they'll spray somebody in the eye and they'll buy their perfume, just hoping that they'll make a sale, which is cool. You know what? We got to make a living. Only I didn't want to be in that position. 60, 65 years old and still wearing black, standing on the floor of a department store selling cosmetics. I didn't want that. Okay, so what I did was, and this was after a turn of events where I hit rock bottom and kind of like came to my senses and looked around and said, what the hell am I going to do? Because at this rate, I'm going to be a broke old man. I'm going to be broke and alone. If I keep going at this rate, I'm going to be standing on this hard floor, and retail won't even exist. I mean, this was even before the retail apocalypse. Retail as we know it will not exist in 10 years. Okay, so at this rate, I didn't want to end up an old man still doing that without a penny to my name. Okay, so all I knew to do was, at the time, because I was surrounded by people who didn't know any better either, all I knew was, okay, well, I guess I better go back to school, finish my degree. I didn't know any better. And, okay, on the one hand, I don't regret having a degree because I love learning. But see, I didn't go to Princeton. I'm not as smart as Jeff Bezos. So, what do I expect? Like, really? I look around and I'm in debt, I'm not making the money I need to be making. So, what's the logical solution? Oh, I got an idea. Why don't I go get in debt to student loans? That's a great idea. I already don't have any money. Why not go get more in debt? So I go back to school, I get my associate's degree, and then I get into art school, which I loved, by the way. I loved art school, actually. That's not a complaint. But I really do think it was a mistake to go to college. I really do. Okay, it works for some people, but it didn't work for me. And the reason it didn't work is because it didn't solve my problem, just like throwing taxpayer dollars at something won't solve the problem because it goes on a deeper fundamental level. And that is understanding the vernacular of money, the language, the energy, what the value that needs to be created. I don't know where my head was at. My head wasn't in the right place. I don't blame anyone for that. I mean, it's the system, right? Okay, who invented the system? I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but follow the money, you know? The way it's set up is that the winners in the game are the banks. The Federal Reserve is a separate corporate entity that issues shares of stocks to banks. But the Federal Reserve is not part of the federal government. The Fed's main income source is interest from loans, okay, that they give out to banks. And then the banks are loaned the money, and then they create the money out of thin air. And so that money that's in your ATM, they don't even have the actual money because it's not tethered to gold. Okay, so you get money out of the ATM, and you think your account, you have this number, this whatever's in your account, and you think that that's actually there, but it's really not, because it's not tethered to anything, because the banks are loaning out your money. They only have to keep a fraction of your actual money in the bank, and they loan out the rest. Okay, so the Federal Reserve gives them money. They create money from that, okay, that is in your wallet. And by the way, it's not even actual. It's not even like it's so hard to explain, but it's just basically the signifier of value. So that dollar bill in your wallet is just a signifier. It's not tethered to anything. It's fiat money. Okay, I don't need to get into all of this, but this is the reason I'm going here is because of the housing problem. Okay, it's all connected. And so you get a loan from the bank. That money is created out of thin air. Okay? Now, say you want to buy a house. All right. They want you to buy a house. That's why you've heard of the American dream. That was basically an advertiser came up with this tagline, this idea that to sell houses. Okay, because it's actually the bank that owns the house, and the bank's giving you money to get the house, so the bank owns the house. Okay, the bank wins. So you could say, I said that a house is not an asset. Well, a house is an asset, but it's not your asset. It's the bank's asset. Comprende? Okay, so here's where I'm going with this. People are buying things that are their liabilities. People are spending more money on liabilities than they are assets. Okay, so they don't have the income coming in that they need to be able to afford the places where they want to live. Because they're just going to work every day, trading their dollar, trading their hours, their time for money. Which, by the way, like, time is the most valuable thing that we have. And it's an insult to put like such a small number in it, but it is what it is. So the root of the problem is number one, mindset. But before we can get into talking about mindset, how that has to change, the system is set up so the banks win. Okay? So no matter how much you throw tax dollars at affordable housing, the banks are still going to win. And the more people realize or find ways to acquire more assets, then we're just going to keep having this problem is not going to get fixed. Okay, no matter how much you go to school, and no matter like what kind of subsidized homes are provided, the bottom line is until that we figure out how to increase our income and how to provide value to the world, there's going to continue to be a shortage of housing because, I mean, Bezos sees what we buy. We buy big screen TVs and expensive handbags and shoes and cars and junk and crap and electronics. Granted, like, it's there's nothing wrong with having nice stuff, having nice things. In fact, I think everyone should have nice things. Just we have to become more educated, and that's really up to us. And I'm not saying that going to college is bad, because it's not, because it's all what you make of it at the end of the day. Okay, so I know, like, some people hear this is the things I say and think I'm anti-college and anti-education, and the truth is I'm not. I'm just like I'm just anti-hidden scam. Is there a word for that? Like, worst scams in life are the ones that are hidden, like the education system, the banking system. Talk about a pyramid scheme. I hear people talk bad about network marketing because there are situations where people get into trouble and they're not successful with this network marketing thing. It gets a bad rap, and of course there are pyramid schemes, but like not everything is a scam, and not every network marketing company is a scam. I mean, no more than freaking college. There, you know what? Because you can't get a refund on college either. You can't go ask for your money back. It didn't work out for me. You can't go to their customer service, bring your receipt, and be like, I want my money back. I'm not happy with this service with college. Because it's a freaking scam. It's worse than network marketing. It really is, because at least, like, network marketing, you may annoy your friends trying to sell them something all the time and trying to, like, loop them into your business. But who cares? Like, people know that the system is ripping them off, and it's set up for the middle class to fail. It really is, and people are realizing that and, like, looking for a way out. Okay, and, like, not everything is a scam. Not everything that is different from what you're used to, like going to school and going to college, getting into college debt, and getting a 401k. You know what? 401k is another big scam, because you can't get your refund on that. You put all it's Wall Street that has a deal with employers and tells them, hey, you know what? Give us your money. Tell your employees to put your money with us, okay? Because they're too dumb to understand how to manage their money. We're the experts. So we're going to come up with this thing called 401k, and tell your employers you'll match them. But in actuality, like, we're going to give you a cut anyway. So you're matching them, but the money's going around in a circle. Okay? So you're not really doing them a favor, because it's coming to Wall Street anyway. And then when the stock market goes down and you lose money, well, sorry, you can't get a refund on that, and Wall Street still makes money. Tell me that's not a scam. Okay? So to fix the housing situation, to fix affordable housing, here's the solution. Number one, we have to learn the language of money, educate ourselves, and learn how we can add value. Like, sure, Jeff Bezos is a genius. He went to Princeton. Like, he's the richest man on the planet. Okay, I actually admire that and recognize that, that only happens once in a lifetime. Okay, so, there's never going to be another guy like Jeff Bezos. It would not be for him and not after him. But success leaves clues. Okay, so what did he do? What are the things that we can emulate? We might not be a genius, but what are the things that we can emulate? He provides jobs in Seattle. And, well, I'm sure it won't put a dent in his pocketbook to pay those taxes to provide the affordable housing. And we'll see how that situation plays out. I don't know. I don't know, like, I can't possibly know the inside information about that. But I have a feeling that, I don't know, I can't put words in his mouth, I can't speak for him, but I wouldn't be surprised if he has the attitude that, if I can do it, then you can do it. All right? If one man can become a billionaire, you can become a millionaire, at least. Because success leaves clues. Okay, so how did he do it? We can increase our income so we don't have to rely on affordable housing. And I believe in social justice. I believe that it is our responsibility. Okay, personally, it is our responsibility to take care of our neighbors. So I'm not opposed to that. I think there are people that need help, and we need to provide them with help. But as much as we can take initiative, take our lives into our own hands, and not be a victim of circumstance. And, there are people that need a handout. So there are seriously people who just can't function, and we need to take care of them. But for most of us, it's our responsibility to do the best that we can and to be as smart as we can, and recognize that the system is set up not in your favor. If you're lower class, middle class, economically, if you're anyone but the ultra rich, the system is not set up for you to win. It's set up for the banks to win. Okay? And as soon as you just recognize that and find a way, to make it work. Here's what I think that they should do about the situation in Seattle. You have to give people a reward. You have to give people an incentive. Okay? Again, I can't speak for Jeff Bezos. I don't know what the man's thinking. But, what if that the city wants to tax him? They're kind of punishing him. There's got to be a way. I don't know how you could reward Amazon, but there's got to be a way that that anyone can feel rewarded by providing for the poor, and maybe not. I'm not saying it's an easy problem to solve. I don't have the answers, but I have a hunch that if we just kind of look at the deeper root of the problem and say, okay, well, we would like for Amazon to provide housing, and I was thinking that would, I thought that would be a really good solution. If there's a way to incentivize a big company like Amazon to provide affordable housing, but there's got to be some kind of incentive for them to do that. a tax break. And they already get a ton of tax breaks. But, I don't know. You know what? Like, you don't have to force someone to give. And maybe he doesn't, maybe he feels like he's given enough by providing jobs. And it comes down to this, that people, as much as we can learn how to create income for ourselves, that's the only way that we'll win. That's the only way that we'll solve the housing crisis, is by making more money, creating more income, because inflation is going to keep happening. The whole system is set up so the value of money that you have in your wallet right now is worth less every year. Okay, and so the way it's set up, it's a debt system, and that's why, like, living within your means or living below your means is not good advice. I mean, don't take it from me. You can, like, go do your research. Go find out for yourself. But because the whole system is set up on debt and expanding. It can't last forever. But until the whole thing falls apart, that's all we got. So we have to play the game. That's basically it. You have to learn the rules of the game and play it. And playing victim is not going to get you any further in life. Playing victim and saying, "Oh, boo-hoo, I need affordable housing." But I'm not saying that to be mean, because I've been there. Like, I know the stress of, like, not knowing where you're going to live. It's freaking stressful. But, with every peak, there's a valley. And the stress that makes us stronger. When you go to the gym, it can't be easy, or you're not going to gain any muscle mass. Okay, so none of it's easy, but here's the thing. Just like Audrey was talking about, being a part of the community, and that's what strengthens us, is contributing to our communities, to getting yourself involved. You don't like something? Well, get involved and change it. And you know what? I have another confession to make. I make confessions every episode. I haven't voted. Don't kill me. Yeah, if you want, I'm throwing myself under the bus. Okay, so you don't have to listen anymore if you hate me for this. But if you are, I'm so glad you're here with me on the Fen Den, where my goal is to win your hearts and change your minds. But I was saying, like, I need to get more involved in my community. And every year I try to get better. Every day, every freaking minute, I want to get better and better. But so, that's what I'm going to do. But I never complain. I don't complain about politics. You never heard me complain once, right? I hope not. Because, anyway, get to the point here. So yeah, everything I say, I'm preaching. Maybe I'm preaching to the choir. I'm preaching to myself. Okay? And I got to practice what I preach. And the way I get involved with my community is, like, I sincerely do make every effort to be a part of my community. And I could do more. I know I could do more. Do you know your neighbor's name? Can you knock on the door and talk to them? And, like, do they know who you are? What would happen, like, if your neighbor died? And, like, would you even know? I know I get morbid. I'm sorry. I'm talking about death, but yeah, it's part of life. All right. So in conclusion, I'm going to wrap it up. I don't expect to solve the housing crisis on one podcast, but I think it's a conversation that is worth having, so that as we join together as a community and see the problems that need to be fixed, because whoever solves the biggest problem does the most for the world. That's the person who has the greatest impact and probably makes the most money too, because money is just a result of the how big the problem is that you solve. Okay? And so I was saying like how I got down this rabbit hole when I was standing on that floor in that department store and realizing like I got to do something. And I picked up I don't know if it was before or after I went to school, but at some point, I think it was after I went to college. I don't know. It's all a blur. But at some point, I picked up, I know, I went to college, but then like realized that was a bad idea halfway through. And then just had to dedicate myself to self-learning about money. And that's when I got started with a book, the Kiyosaki book, who wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I got one of his books called The Cash Flow Quadrant. Now, I don't agree with everything that Kiyosaki says. Like, he's totally anti-job. I know sometimes I sound anti-job, and I'm not. But things get lost in translation. What I am opposed to is not fulfilling your full potential and selling yourself short. Okay? I think it's so easy to lose track of your purpose, and it's so easy to get derailed and listen to people around you and I think that's the biggest problem that keeps people down, is not getting enough information, getting the wrong information, listening to people around them who, and I'm going to say this, and as to not be a hypocrite, like, you can take it or leave it, whatever I say. I'm glad you're listening, thank you, but I am on a journey just like you are, okay? All right, so while I see my future as being incredibly wealthy, my bank account still has to catch up to it, and hey, we're all on a journey. I'm bringing you along with me. Okay, but so take it or leave it, but educate yourself. If you don't agree with something I say, well, cool, go learn from someone who has done it, who resonates with you. Get enough information, get enough data. Don't just listen to people around you. Do listen to the people around you, but also listen to people above you that are like 20 years older than you, who've been around the block a few times, they know a thing or two. And look at there's this biblical concept called knowing a tree by its fruit. And it means that a apple tree will not produce lemons, okay? An olive tree will not produce poison berries. Because you know a tree by its fruit. So you can see really, really quickly, you can see what someone is about by what's going on with them in their life, Okay, so look at that. It's really important. So be careful who you get your information from. All right? Thank you for listening to the Fen Den. Please like and subscribe. If I've said anything that like remotely resonates with you, please share it with someone. For the greater purpose of like becoming who you are meant to be. I want to raise up not followers, but raise up leaders. Okay, and if that's you, thank you for listening. And click like, smash the like button, obliterate the follow button, and pound on the subscribe button if you're listening on iTunes. Really appreciate it. Okay? And until we meet again, thanks for being awesome.